They froze. Not because of a weapon, but because a name got spoken like it was cursed. Your name. The minute it hit the air, the room changed. The light shifted. The laughter died in their throats. The walls felt closer, and every single person suddenly remembered where you stood on the food chain. Above them, always above. No alarms went off. No footsteps echoed. No grand entrance, just your name. A vibration that made the liars sweat and the jealous ones spiral. You know why it shook the room? Because your existence forces people to confront what they'll never be. You don't ask for attention, you snatch it. Without even blinking, you weren't built to be liked. You were designed to collapse comfort zones, a walking contradiction. Holy aura, psychopath rhythm, smile like salvation, eyes like execution. You confuse them, and what they can't decode, they destroy. Or at least, they try. And now, they're trying to swallow that venom they spit. You weren't supposed to survive, let alone own the atmosphere. You didn't climb the ladder. You ripped it off the wall and built your own. They're not mad you made it. They're mad you weren't supposed to. You weren't bred in privilege. You were forged in fire. While they were posting for applause, you were burying bodies of your former selves. While they were networking, you were mutating. And now, you don't enter rooms. You infect them. Your name is a warning label now. Don't say it unless you're ready to feel it. Because once it's said, people shift. Phones get flipped over. Suddenly everyone's an analyst. They replay your posts, decode your tone. They don't study you to learn. They study you to survive. They're not watching for inspiration. They're watching for self-defense. Because if you show up again, if you move again, it might mean they're done. You've done something very few people have ever pulled off. You've become a silent threat, a walking contradiction they can't outthink, a halo that hunts, a glitch in their generational software. You move like you've seen the ending, and it didn't scare you. And now they're foaming with jealousy, because deep down they know. They wasted years trying to fit in, while you weaponized your outsider status and became inevitable. They talk about energy and vibes like it's fashion. You mastered the art of atmosphere manipulation. You could walk into a crowded room and suffocate the ego out of every face in it. No words, just presence. Because your evolution didn't come with applause, it came with consequences. They betrayed you, and you leveled up. They disrespected you, and you redesigned your DNA. They mocked your silence. And now they're screaming into the void, trying to match your frequency. You shattered quietly, then came back like a mirror that reflects everything they fear. And here's the part they can't stand. You didn't ask to be great. You just refused to stay small. You weren't trying to make an impact. You were the meteor, and they all got caught pretending they didn't see the sky change color. Now they're sitting in rooms whispering your name like it's a damn spell. Because deep down, they know the truth. When your name enters a space, the rules break, the masks crack, the fakes flinch, and the real ones stand up straighter. That's not hype, that's psychological warfare. And the best part? You never had to destroy them. You just had to exist at full volume. Now, watch them malfunction. Let them foam. Let them sweat. Let them dissect every inch of your legend in real time. Because whether they admit it or not, you didn't just walk in the room. You rewired it. And that quake they felt, that wasn't fear. That was recognition. Keep moving. Keep silent. Keep deadly. Because from now on, your name isn't a label. It's a signal. And the ones who hear it, they know exactly what's coming. You, unfiltered, unstoppable, unforgiven. Let it echo. Let it rattle the walls. Let them choke on everything they said you'd never become. Because next time, your name comes up. It won't just shake the room. It'll rebuild it in your image. Smile. They're still pretending not to panic. Oh, they're still trying to act normal, huh? Still sipping their drinks like their nervous system didn't just collapse under the table. Still tapping on their phones like they're not secretly pulling up your name. Checking if you posted again. Praying you didn't. But you did. And the tremor they felt wasn't digital. It was biological. Because you've become something they can't scroll past, mute, or forget. You're lodged in the code now, not just an idea, a presence. They don't know how to compete with that. They know how to copy, they know how to lie, but they don't know how to be felt. And you're felt everywhere. Every room you're not in, every conversation you're not part of. Every deal you didn't sign still shifts around the idea of you. Because your aura lingers longer than their reputation. You've hit that terrifying frequency now, where you haunt before you even arrive, and it kills them. Because no matter how many labels they try to slap on you, no one. Arrogant, dangerous, lucky, delusional. They know damn well none of those words explain why they feel smaller in your shadow. You shrunk their confidence just by breathing near it. You know what makes them spiral the most. You didn't respond to their doubt. You mutated past it. No rebuttals, no revenge. Just results so undeniable they've had to rewrite their reality just to survive you. You kept showing up like a prophecy that refused to be buried. And now, they gather in groups like it's a therapy session. Did you see what they posted? Who does he think he is? I knew them before the glow-up. They try to rewrite your origin story because they're choking on your outcome. But you didn't evolve to prove anything to them. You evolved because your old self couldn't contain what was coming. You cracked, and then you overflowed. Now they're trying to clean up a flood that was never meant to be stopped. Understand this. They don't just envy you. They're terrified of what you make them feel about themselves. You're a mirror they didn't ask for. You reflect the laziness in their grind, the fear in their ambition, the weakness in their leadership. You walk in, and the lies fall off their bones. You're not playing a character. You're the truth, weaponized. They tried to paint you as a villain to avoid admitting you're a blueprint. They needed you to be a fluke. But deep down, every twitch in their soul screams, this wasn't an accident. It was a fucking design. And now the panic has matured into obsession. They study your cadence, analyze your silence, try to reverse engineer your mystery. But it won't work. Because what you built was born from void, from abandonment, from being the only one who clapped when no one believed. And that kind of energy, you can't replicate it. You earn it in the dark, in the cold, in the betrayal, in the years where your name got laughed out of rooms you now own. They talk legacy. You live it. Every move, every scar, every unpredictable flip of the script. That's legacy in real time, and they can't keep up. You're not ahead of the game. You became the glitch in its system, and now the players are malfunctioning, trying to find the rules, while you write new ones in blood. Every time your name comes up now, someone remembers a mistake they made, a chance they missed, a warning they ignored. Because no one believed in you until it was too late to stop you. And now, they build their brands around reacting to yours. Their voice trembles on the mic when they try to speak over your echo. Their presence feels hollow when held up next to your gravity. You walk into rooms like they owe you answers. and they do. They owe you apologies they'll never have the spine to say out loud. They owe you explanations for why they watched you drown and tried to monetize the splash. But you don't want the apology. You want the thunder that comes from silence, the pressure that makes liars blink, the chokehold of presence that reminds people who TF they're really dealing with. You are not a moment. You are a sequence, a domino effect that starts with discomfort and ends with domination. Let them scramble. Let them try to get ahead of the storm you are. Let them whisper, panic, and rebrand themselves in real time to survive your heat wave. Because deep down, they're not angry that you're powerful. They're angry that you did it without them, without their permission, without their formula, without their fake love. And now, you're the quake they'll never recover from. So remember, you don't shake the room when your name comes up. You remind it who built the damn floor. Keep moving, keep venomous, keep unrepentant. Because they can't stop a force they can't decode. And you, my friend, you're not a person anymore. You're a reaction, you're a warning, you're the future that already arrived. And every time your name hits the air, someone somewhere forgets how to breathe. Let that echo forever. They thought they could contain it, contain you. Like you were some trending glitch they could dismiss with a smug smile and a sarcastic eye roll. They thought you'd be a phase, a spike, a moment that would pass once the hype wore off and the buzz cooled down. But what they didn't realize is that you weren't noise, you were a frequency. And the moment your name cracked through that silence, every other sound became irrelevant. Because you didn't arrive with permission. You didn't walk in begging for validation. You arrived like Judgment Day, and everyone felt guilty. And the scariest part for them, you were still calm. That smile, not friendly. That silence, not ignorance. That pause before you speak. It destroys timelines. Because when you speak, people don't just listen, they adjust. You're not loud because you need attention. You're loud because your impact echoes before you even start. And now, they foam with jealousy, with rage, with guilt. Because your existence proves their mediocrity is a choice. They were born with more tools, and somehow still drowned in shallow water. But you built gills in the deep end, and now you swim like the rules never mattered. They wear confidence like costume jewelry. You wear pain like a diamond that cuts through reputations. And that's why when your name gets spoken, walls lean in. You didn't become successful. You became a phenomenon. A psychological event that shifts atmosphere and disorients the weak. You're not on the radar. You are the radar. And they can't move without pinging against your existence. Now they flinch when your name is whispered. They pause their plans to run diagnostics on your latest post. They adjust their schedules around your silence. Because it scares them more than your presence. What kind of monster doesn't speak, but still commands obedience? You. Because they were never ready for someone who weaponized absence better than they use attention. You disappear for a week, and the entire network chokes on suspense. They thought they were competing with your content. But really, they were trying to survive your legend. Your story didn't go viral. It went viral in their subconscious. You're not a brand. You're a blackout, the kind that makes everything else feel powerless in comparison. And when your name is brought up now, people don't ask who. They ask where. Where are you going next? Where did you come from? Where can they run if you decide to aim? Because every room you've ever entered, you didn't just light it up. You rewrote its purpose. The center of gravity shifted, the power recalibrated, and people started lying to themselves just to cope with the presence they didn't see coming. You became their unsolvable riddle. Too kind to be a villain, too ruthless to be a saint, too strategic to be dismissed, too consistent to be called lucky, too powerful to be understood. So now, they cling to each other, they gossip, they spin theories, they scream in echo chambers built to ignore your name. But somehow it's still there, burned into their emotional hard drive, an ambient pressure, a lingering anxiety that you might move again, and if you do, they might not survive the update. Because you didn't just make noise, you became proof that pain can be converted into permanent power. You walked out of hell with data, with strategy, with rhythm. You came back from the grave with a system failure report on every weapon they tried to use against you. And now you stand still, and everything else trembles. They foam because they know it. They foam because they hate that they respect you now. They foam because they would have sold their soul to pull off what you did effortlessly. You taught people how to burn quietly, how to build an empire from exile, how to own the room by unlearning the need to perform for it. You're not inspirational, you're irreversible. They can't get rid of you, because you became part of the algorithm of consequence. The moment your name is mentioned, the temperature drops, the posture stiffens, the tone shifts, and everyone pretends they're not recalculating their lives in real time. That's not fame. That's psychological gravity. You didn't go viral. You infected the silence. And now, you're not what they think about. You're what thinks through them. Your name has weight. It doesn't float. It drags judgment behind it. So let them say it. Let them whisper it. Let them stutter. Let them sweat. Let them strategize in dim-lit rooms with whiteboards full of guesses about your next move. Because no matter what they try, they all know you weren't a guest in that room. You were the quake that made it real. And the only reason they still talk about you is because you left an echo where their ego used to be. And here's the part that burns them from the inside out. They trained for years to be noticed, built their personas like costumes, practiced smiles in mirrors, took networking courses, bought fake followers, branded themselves to look bigger than their shadow. And you moved like a rumor, a ripple, a whisper with a body count. You didn't chase the spotlight. You became the reason it moved. It wasn't clout, it was consequence. Because the moment your name was spoken aloud, things cracked. Not because you did anything loud or theatrical, but because you existed with such quiet certainty that everyone else's noise started sounding like static. You don't fight for position. You collapse hierarchies just by standing still. You didn't show up to compete. You showed up like a plot twist. And now the script doesn't make sense without you. Their jealousy isn't about what you have. It's about what you represent. You are proof that evolution isn't clean. It's jagged. It's violent. It's stitched together with betrayal, silence, and rebirth. You are what happens when pain doesn't kill you. It refines you. They see your eyes now, and they don't see a dreamer. They see a weapon forged from every time they underestimated you. You made war look like art. And now, even their admiration sounds like accusation. She changed. He's different. They're not like before. Damn right they're not. Because the version of you that asked for permission was executed quietly. The one that replaced them didn't come to fit in, didn't come to be understood, didn't come to inspire. You came to disrupt. To unlearn every rule they swore was sacred. To walk in like a riddle only your pain could solve. And they're panicking. Because you're not supposed to be this untouchable. Not with your past, not with your origin story, not with your setbacks, betrayals, delays, disappearances. But somehow, here you are, still walking, still dangerous, still impossible to categorize. You make every room feel like a courtroom, and every guilty soul suddenly remembers the day they doubted you, the day they laughed, the day they tried to mock your silence. Now, your silence is a countdown, because when your name is spoken now, it doesn't invite dialogue, it invokes judgment. They foam because they realize you didn't just evolve, you transcended, you grew past explanation, you graduated from revenge, you became a presence that bends perception, that exposes insecurity, that drains the spotlight from anyone pretending. And the more they try to box you in, the more reality warps around you. They say, you think you're better than everyone else. Number. You don't think that. You know you're beyond what they ever imagined, because while they were practicing charisma, you were learning the art of vanishing and returning like a revelation. You've become something they can't fight, because you're not present in the physical anymore. Your emotional gravity, your memory wrapped in warning, you're the residue of truth they can't wash off their hands. They try to smile through your wins, but the camera always catches the twitch, the rage hiding behind the forced congratulations, the quiet panic in their eyes when someone says, "You remind me of them." Oh, that burns, because your name has become a standard, and standards are exhausting for people addicted to shortcuts. So let them twist, let them scramble, let them foam like animals caged by their own comparisons. Because the real ones, the quiet ones, the ones who recognize the code behind your chaos, they don't talk when your name comes up. They nod, because they know. What you've done, it doesn't just shake rooms, it changes bloodlines, it rewrites outcomes, it undoes curses. And that kind of power, you don't get applause for it. You get fear, you get obsession, you get watched from every angle by people who swore you didn't matter. But oh, how they watch now. Not because they care, because they know. You're the prophecy they laughed at. And now they're living in the fallout. So go ahead. Let your name be spoken again. Let it vibrate in their throats. Let it echo in their strategies. Let it burn on their tongues like a warning they wished they believed. Because now, every time your name leaves their mouth, a little more truth escapes with it, and a little more fear sets in. You're not just shaking rooms anymore. You're redefining what they mean. And soon, they won't just whisper about you. They'll build religions trying to understand what made you real. And the best part? You'll never say a word, because when you arrive, the silence does all the talking. Look at you, glowing like a saint, moving like a specter with a blade. They thought holiness meant harmlessness. They thought light meant safety. But you didn't just walk into that room. You rewrote the definition of purity with violence stitched underneath. You looked holy, but you moved like a strategic assassin. And that's the paradox that terrifies them. Because they can handle demons. They expect demons. But an angel that kills without flinching, that's an equation no book, no priest, no analyst ever accounted for. You carry the glow of divinity, and the silence of someone who's already buried too many lies. They didn't see it coming. How could they? Their entire doctrine taught them that light and death cannot hold hands. But you proved them wrong by holding both in your palms and smiling like it was inevitable. They wanted to adore you. They wanted to worship the glow. They wanted you locked in the box of innocence. But what they got was precision, movements measured, cold, deliberate. You didn't stumble into power. You executed it like a surgeon removing rot. They thought you'd whisper blessings. You whispered calculations. They thought you'd heal wounds. You pressed on them until they screamed truth. They thought you were light, but you weaponized light into interrogation. And that's why they hate you. Because you never chose a side. You embodied both. Angel and assassin, savior and executioner, saint and psychopath. They looked at your face and saw mercy. They watched your movement and saw murder. And now, every time you enter a room, their bodies don't know whether to kneel or to run. You created neurological chaos in the system. And that, my friend, is the sharpest weapon in existence. You don't conquer by force. You conquer by contradiction. The kind of contradiction that short-circuits centuries of programming. Because what are they supposed to do when the chosen one plays chess with knives? What are they supposed to believe when the angel of light executes like a shadow-born tactician? You didn't just blur the lines. You erased them. You stood at the crossroads of morality and strategy, and you built a throne from the corpses of both sides. That's the part they can't stomach. You weren't supposed to exist. They wrote rules to prevent you. They built religions to suppress you. They whispered prayers hoping no one like you would ever walk the earth again. But you're here, and you're smiling, and you're moving with the rhythm of something designed in silence for centuries of impact. You don't just move like an assassin. You move like a prophecy finally cashing its check. And every step you take bleeds panic into their lungs. Because how do you kill what looks divine? How do you expose what already walks as both judge and executioner? You are the paradox that burns the temples, the unanswered riddle that kills in plain sight. Because they can't call you evil. Your aura won't let them, and they can't call you good. Your results won't allow it. So they call you dangerous. But even that word trembles when it tries to cage you. You looked holy, and that's why they trusted you. But you moved like a strategic assassin, and that's why they'll never forget you. You are proof that light can stalk, that purity can kill, that innocence can carry a body count. You are the smile in the courtroom and the knife in the confession booth. And every time they replay the footage, they don't see a mistake. They see inevitability. Because let's face it, you weren't there to save them. You were there to show them the truth. That even heaven breeds killers. That even angels are capable of blood. That the sharpest weapon the world will ever meet is the one that walks in dressed as salvation. So when they whisper your name in panic, when they replay that night in trembling detail, they'll remember one thing above all. You didn't walk in to be understood. You walked in to be remembered. And now, they'll never forget the day they saw an angel move like an assassin. You hear it, don't you? That silence after the storm isn't peace. It's recalibration. It's the sound of a system rewriting itself around your existence. They told themselves you were a mistake. They whispered in private circles that you snapped. But the truth? You were the inevitability they prayed would never arrive. They can handle monsters. They can handle saints. But a saint that moves like a monster, that's a different species of terror. They spent centuries building rules to keep light and death apart. To make sure mercy never learned precision, to ensure no one could blend glow with calculation. You walked in and dissolved all of it. Without a single spell, without a single prayer, without a single permission slip. You didn't betray heaven. You revealed it. Revealed the blind spot in every scripture, the hidden clause in every oath. You took holiness and taught it to hunt. They were waiting for a savior. They got a strategist. They wanted a blessing. They got a verdict. They built a temple. You turned it into a war room. You're not an anomaly. You're an update, a patch in the software of power, the glitch that rewrites the doctrine mid-sentence. They studied your walk frame by frame. They slowed your movements down to milliseconds, desperate to find the moment where your divinity broke and turned into something tactical. They couldn't find it, because it never broke. It was always both. You carry that paradox like a blade hidden in a rosary, a prayer that cuts, a blessing that burns. And it drives them mad, because nothing in their training tells them how to respond to someone who shines like grace and strikes like vengeance. Every time you step forward, they're forced to confront their own hypocrisy. Every time you speak, their rituals lose a little more power. Every time you pause, a century of dogma trembles. They thought holiness was soft. You made it surgical. They thought purity was passive. You made it a weapon. They thought an angel would never aim. You taught them angels don't aim. Angels land. This is why they can't sleep. Why they meet in back rooms and whisper your name like a virus code. Because they finally understand the real nightmare. You didn't just walk into their circle. You've been standing inside it for years, watching, learning, turning every insult into intelligence, every wound into a blueprint. You are not reacting to them, they are reacting to you. And that is the first time in their lives they've ever felt outplayed by light. Look at them now. The robes don't hide the trembling. The candles don't mask the sweat. Their eyes dart like prey scanning for a predator. But you're not a predator. You're a mirror. You show them what they tried to hide in themselves. Their own hunger for control, their own capacity for harm, their own trembling hands on the blade of morality. And when you speak, it's not rage, it's diagnosis. You name their sickness with a surgeon's calm. You trace their hypocrisy with a sniper's patience. You slice their illusions with a saint's smile. They call you dangerous? They're right. But not because you destroy, because you reveal, because you've proven that light can stalk, that prayer can plot, that innocence can infiltrate. They had a plan for every devil. They had a ritual for every curse. They had a circle for every shadow. But you were the thing they swore would never exist. The angel who studied their playbook, memorized their tells, and walked in not to plead for mercy, but to deliver a verdict. You looked holy, but you moved like a strategic assassin, and that's what will echo long after the candles go out. The day they realized salvation had learned to kill. You didn't just break their system, you became its audit, its countermeasure, its living proof that nothing is untouchable. And now, they're rewriting everything, burning records, scrubbing archives, pretending you never walked in. But they can't erase what's burned into their nervous systems. They can't unsee the angel who outmaneuvered them. They can't unfeel the blade hidden in the blessing. Because you're not a story anymore. You're a trigger. Every time they light a candle, every time they recite a chant, your shadow appears in the smoke, and their hands shake before the first word leaves their mouths. You've changed the frequency. You've altered the myth. You've made them doubt the safety of their own rituals. And that, right there, is power. The kind that doesn't need to shout. The kind that doesn't need to strike twice. The kind that walks out of the room leaving silence as the loudest sound. That's you. That's who you are now. An angel with a blade, a saint with a strategy, a blessing disguised as a verdict. You know what really terrifies them? It isn't what you did. It's how you did it. They're used to killers looking like killers. They're used to monsters sounding like monsters. But you came wrapped in light, soft eyes, measured words, hands as steady as prayer, and you dismantled an entire system without even raising your voice. You didn't storm their gates. You walked through the front door. You didn't brandish a weapon. You became one. That's why the footage keeps getting played in secret war rooms, not because of the damage you left behind, but because of the calm with which you delivered it. They study the frames of you moving across their sanctified floors. They pause the recording at the moment their oldest member lowers his gaze. They run it back when your lips move, but no sound comes out, and every candle in the room dies at once. And still, after all the analysis, after all the expert panels, they can't find the switch where you stopped being a blessing and started being a threat. Because the truth is, there was no switch. It's always been both. Your light has always had a blade hidden inside it. Your mercy has always had an edge sharp enough to cut through ritual. They've spent lifetimes telling themselves that purity can't plan, that innocence can't execute, that angels don't know how to read a battlefield. And you walked in and shattered that lie in a single night. You didn't just move like an assassin, you moved like a memory returning, like something their bloodline once feared but buried under ceremony and translation. They saw you and felt a tremor they couldn't name. Not recognition, not déjà vu, but something older than both. A flash of truth burned into marrow. This isn't the first time light has come for us, and it won't be the last. Every breath you take in their presence corrupts their data. Their instruments glitch when you walk past. Their prayers falter mid-word. Their most trusted symbols flicker like dying neon. Because what you carry isn't just power, it's a frequency that exposes. You don't need to draw a weapon. Your contradictions do it for you. A halo and a knife, a benediction and a kill shot. A smile that feels like sunrise but lands like a verdict. They trained themselves to fight demons. They built entire religions to outlast devils. But they have nothing, not a single line of defense, for a being who can speak like a savior and strike like a tactician. Nothing for a soul that can love and execute in the same breath without flinching. You've turned their world into a hall of mirrors. Every reflection shows them their own hypocrisy. Every echo is your calm voice pointing out the rot in their foundation. They can't attack you without looking like the villains they always were. They can't embrace you without submitting to a force they don't understand. That's why they whisper your name in coded language. Why their meetings now begin with contingency plans instead of prayers. Why every hallway smells of burnt incense and panic sweat. Because you've shown them that the oldest lie was this, that light and darkness are enemies. You've proven that sometimes the most lethal weapon in the room is clarity. Listen to me now. You didn't survive by accident. You weren't sent here to help them. You were sculpted by pain, honed by betrayal, sharpened by silence, and you walked back into the room carrying the curriculum of your scars. They saw a halo. They never saw the hours you spent in the shadows, learning every weakness, every blind spot, every escape route. They never understood that mercy without wisdom is slavery, that grace without strategy is self-sacrifice. You learned, and then you moved, and when you moved, the myth cracked. They thought they were summoning an ally. They conjured a reckoning. They thought they were importing a blessing. They imported a living audit of their sins. Now every time they close their eyes, they see you moving through their sacred spaces. Calm, precise, unstoppable. They wake at night with the phantom weight of your presence pressing on their chests. They pray in new languages, hoping the sound won't summon you back. But you're already there, not in body, in imprint, in the frequency they can't erase, in the nervous tremor every time they light a candle, in the way their hands shake before they draw a circle. You looked holy, but you moved like a strategic assassin, and that truth now lives in them, like a second heartbeat. Because you didn't just show them who you are, you showed them who they are when their rituals collapse. And that's the real reason they'll never recover. You are not their angel. You are not their assassin. You are the mirror they spent centuries avoiding. And you finally forced them to look. You were never supposed to learn strategy. That was the unspoken rule buried beneath all their theology, all their spell work, all their prophecies. Angels could glow. They could guide. They could even sacrifice themselves if the script demanded it. But they were never meant to calculate. Because the moment an angel learns to calculate, to dissect, to observe, to strike with intention instead of impulse, that's the moment the whole system begins to crack. And guess what? You didn't just learn strategy. You mastered it. In secret, in silence, under pressure. While they were preaching sermons, you were studying war. While they were lighting candles, you were counting exits. While they were performing peace, you were mapping patterns of betrayal in real time. You sat there, glowing in gold, nodding softly, while dissecting the architecture of every lie around you. They thought you were absorbing wisdom. You were collecting weaknesses. And when the moment came, when the masks slipped, when the circle faltered and the truth leaked out like poisoned smoke, you didn't flinch. You moved, not like a victim, not like a prophet, but like a weapon with divine clearance, a tactical anomaly with a smile shaped like forgiveness, and a presence that rewired the room's oxygen levels. That's why they say you're dangerous. Because you turned purity into precision. Because you blurred the sacred with the surgical. Because you smiled like heaven while initiating an internal coup of their entire belief system. They called you holy until you outmaneuvered them. Then they called you cursed. They called you blessed until you broke their formation. Then they called you a threat. But deep down, they know what you are. They know what's really happening. You are the return of an ancient variable, the kind they buried under 1,000 years of controlled doctrine and orchestrated morality. The kind they thought they could drown with guilt and ritual. The kind that walks through their sacred halls without bowing. Because you remember the original contract. You didn't forget what they did. You just waited, patiently, quietly, while they forgot what you could become. And now their circles don't close properly. Their chants don't vibrate right. Their symbols glitch on the floor like corrupted code. Because you walked in, and the entire system registered a threat it cannot categorize. A signal, an echo, a phenomenon that doesn't match any of their models. You are not rebellion. You are recall. They've started whispering phrases they were trained never to speak aloud. Phrases like frequency bleed, like unpredictable holiness, like heaven-tier threat with autonomous patterning. Some even call you the crossed line. The moment when prophecy stopped being metaphor and started taking names. You didn't betray the light. You completed it. You didn't fall into darkness. You used it like a scalpel. That's the kind of evolution they've feared since the first text was written. An angel that doesn't obey blindly, but adapts, adjusts, executes. They trained generations to kneel at altars. You dismantled the altar mid-prayer and turned the broken marble into a message. This isn't about disobedience. This is about memory. About what happens when a being made of grace remembers the cold hands that tried to mold it into a pawn and decides to recode its own divinity. You're not the aftermath. You're the restart key, the reboot. The signal that says, enough with the performance. I've seen behind the veil, and now I move with purpose and judgment, and the kind of holy that doesn't ask for permission. They thought your power was your glow. They were wrong. Your real power was that you understood their entire system and didn't flinch. You walked into their sacred protocols and broke them with calm articulation. And now, the Watchers are on alert. The analysts are redacting their own reports. The bloodlines are panicking in silence. Because you didn't destroy anything, you revealed it. You made them look at their own rotted rituals and called it exactly what it was: holy theater. Strategic manipulation dressed as tradition. You didn't just look holy and move like an assassin. You became a living audit of faith. And every time you breathe, their foundation loses another brick. They'll never say your name in public again. They'll speak of you only in sealed documents, hidden transcripts, black file vaults. Because now you're not a person. You're a trigger word. You're a classified glitch in the moral algorithm. And they'll spend lifetimes trying to decode how you did it. How you turned grace into warfare and made divinity move like silence with a knife. But they'll never solve it. Because what you are can't be bound, can't be erased, can't be categorized. You are the angel that learned the map and still chose to burn the room. Freeze. Not your body, your assumptions. Because the room just changed temperature the moment you realized what you were looking at wasn't chaos. It was a solved pattern. They said it was gone. They archived it, buried it, misnamed it, mislabeled it as coincidence and superstition and myth. They wrapped it in dust and time and told themselves no one alive could still see it. And for a while, that lie worked. It worked because most people don't look. Most people blink, flinch, moralize, or run. Most people need noise to feel safe. Most people need rules to feel human. You didn't. You stood there while everything went quiet. You watched outcomes stack without applause. You felt the absence before anyone felt the loss. And that's when it happened. The click behind your eyes. Not excitement, not fear, recognition. Bodies dropped silently, not in blood, not in spectacle, but in meaning. Old assumptions collapsed. Fake gods suffocated. Narratives lost oxygen. The loudest certainties in the room suddenly couldn't breathe. And nobody knew why they felt sick watching you stay calm. Because you didn't do anything dramatic. You understood something. That's the part that terrifies them. You didn't rage. You didn't celebrate. You didn't announce the kill shot. You just adjusted. And in that adjustment, entire belief systems lost their spine. You saw the architecture beneath the madness. You saw how light pretends to be moral while using darkness to get its work done. You saw how saints borrow psychopath traits when survival is on the line. You saw how angels don't descend. They calculate. They like their heroes loud and their villains obvious. You're neither. That's why they can't place you. You're standing at the seam where opposites stop pretending they're enemies, where mercy and precision share the same hands, where patience becomes lethal without ever raising its voice. You don't chase control. You let unpredictability orbit you like gravity. You don't need permission to evolve. Pain already signed the paperwork. You learned the pattern because you paid in silence. Every loss you swallowed instead of announcing. Every betrayal you studied instead of reacting to. Every time you chose to watch instead of speak. That's the tuition they never paid. They were busy arguing morality. You were mapping behavior. They were worshipping outcomes. You were tracing cause. They were screaming about justice. You were reading the algorithm underneath fate. And when the final piece slid into place, it wasn't fireworks. It was stillness. The kind of stillness predators respect and prey misunderstand. The kind of stillness that only appears when chaos realizes it's been observed. That's when they felt it. Something ancient stirring. Something they'd hoped was extinct. Not a weapon, not a technique. A way of seeing that doesn't ask how something should work, only how it always has. You didn't invent it. You remembered it. And memory is dangerous when it wakes up in the wrong era. They'll tell themselves you got lucky. They'll say the timing aligned. They'll whisper about coincidence because coincidence is comforting. Coincidence means no one is responsible. Coincidence means they don't have to change. But you know better. You know patterns don't disappear. They wait. They fossilize inside systems. They hide in habits, incentives, rituals, and lies. People repeat until they forget they're repeating anything at all. You saw it because you were forged in contradiction, soft enough to feel everything, sharp enough to survive it. That's the paradox they can't digest. You're calm because you've already burned. You're precise because you've already bled. You're unpredictable because pain stripped you of the need to perform. You don't move like someone trying to win. You move like someone who already understands the board. That's why silence followed you. That's why the air felt heavier. That's why certain people suddenly stopped making eye contact without knowing why. Something in them recognized you the way animals recognize weather. Too late to argue, too early to escape. This isn't power the way they teach it. This is older, quieter, cleaner. It doesn't need dominance. It doesn't crave validation. It doesn't even need to be seen. It just resolves. And once a pattern is solved, everything pretending to be random starts panicking. They'll act normal. They always do. They'll keep smiling, keep posting, keep talking like the ground didn't just shift under their definitions of safe. But underneath that performance, the system is recalculating around you. Because systems hate anomalies that can't be predicted, and you don't broadcast your next move. You let them assume. That's mercy. That's cruelty. That's mastery. You didn't become something new today. You shed the illusion that you weren't already built for this. The angel and the demon stopped fighting for control and realized they were on the same side. The saint learned when to stop forgiving. The psychopath learned restraint. And what emerged wasn't balance, it was clarity. So stand there. Let the silence finish its work. Let the old myths choke on their own age. You don't need to explain what just happened. Explanations are for people still trapped inside the noise. You solved the pattern they thought time erased, and time doesn't forgive being underestimated. And here's the part nobody ever warns them about. Once a pattern is solved, it doesn't just sit there like a trophy. It starts rearranging everything around it. You felt it before they did. That subtle pressure in the air, like reality taking a half step back to reassess you. Conversations slowed, reactions dulled. People who used to speak with certainty suddenly needed disclaimers. Not because you threatened them, because their internal map no longer matched the terrain. That's what happens when someone like you appears. You don't break rules. You expose which ones were fake. They were trained to believe chaos is loud, explosive, emotional. They were trained to think danger announces itself with teeth and theatrics. But the most dangerous thing in the room has always been the one who understands. The one who watches long enough to notice repetition where others see randomness. The one who realizes pain isn't just suffering, it's data. You didn't waste yours. Every wound sharpened your perception. Every disappointment stripped another layer of illusion. Every moment you were forced into silence trained you to hear what people say without speaking. You learned how patterns breathe, how fear moves through groups, how power hides behind virtue, and how weakness disguises itself as morality. They called it empathy when you felt too much. They called it coldness when you stopped reacting. They never realized you were evolving in real time. See, evolution doesn't look heroic up close. It looks lonely. It looks misunderstood. It looks like being too intense for the innocent and too honest for the corrupt. It looks like standing in between light and dark, long enough to realize both sides lie when it suits them. That's where you were shaped. You learned that angels can justify atrocities if the story sounds clean enough. You learned that demons sometimes tell the truth because they have nothing left to protect. You learned that good and evil aren't opposites, they're tools. And the one who survives is the one who knows when to use which. That knowledge is why everything feels quieter now. The noise hasn't stopped, it's just lost relevance. People still shout, systems still grind, narratives still churn. But you're no longer hypnotized by the volume. You see the loops, the repeating behaviors, the same mistakes dressed up as progress, the same betrayals wrapped in new language, the same outcomes marching toward people who swear they're different. And you stepped sideways. That's why bodies dropped silently. Not people, not flesh, but assumptions, old identities, expired roles, dead futures that were never yours to carry. They fell away without ceremony, and the silence that followed wasn't emptiness, it was space. Space for precision, space for timing, space for moves that don't need witnesses. They're uncomfortable around you now, even if they can't name it. You disrupt their internal rhythm. You don't mirror their emotions on cue. You don't rush to reassure their illusions. You don't perform alignment just to be accepted. You let them feel uncertain. And uncertainty is lethal to fragile systems. They'll test you next, subtly. Little provocations, moral traps, emotional bait. They'll try to pull you back into predictability, because predictability is the only thing they know how to manage. They'll want you angry, reactive, righteous, loud, anything but clear. But clarity is your edge. You don't need to dominate the room. You let the room expose itself. You don't argue with narratives. You watch who defends them the hardest and note why. You don't chase validation. You observe who withholds it and what they fear losing. Every interaction feeds the map. This is what they never understood about people like you. You're not driven by revenge, and you're not fueled by hope. You're powered by recognition. Once you see something for what it is, you can't unsee it. And once you can't unsee it, pretending becomes impossible. That's why your presence feels final, not violent, not cruel, just inevitable. You didn't wake something dark. You woke something accurate, something that doesn't need to justify itself, something that knows when to wait and when to move, something that understands that the most permanent changes happen quietly, while everyone else is distracted by spectacle. Let them keep acting normal. Let them smile, post, joke, deny. Let them cling to timelines and explanations that make them feel safe. Normalcy is a costume people wear when they sense a shift they can't control. You're not here to tear it off. You're here to walk past it. Because the pattern you solved wasn't just about them. It was about you. About why you were always out of sync. about why chaos never quite swallowed you, about why pressure didn't crush you but refined you. You weren't broken, you were being calibrated, and now the calibration is complete. Move slowly, think sharply, say less than you know. Let silence do the heavy lifting. The pattern is yours now, and patterns don't need permission to repeat themselves through the right hands. Time didn't erase it. Time was waiting for you to be ready. And understand this: once time realizes you're no longer confused by it, it stops trying to scare you. That's the shift you're feeling now. That strange calm that doesn't come from peace but from alignment. You're no longer asking why things happened the way they did. You're no longer bargaining with the past or negotiating with pain. You're using it, converting it, letting it speak in its native language. They think time heals. You learned time reveals. It reveals who was pretending. It reveals who was performing goodness instead of living it. It reveals which truths were only strong because no one had the nerve to look directly at them. You did. That's why your presence feels heavier now, even when you say nothing. You're not carrying emotion, you're carrying resolution. And resolution unsettles people who survive on ambiguity, people who live off loopholes, people who need things to stay blurry so they can keep lying to themselves. You've noticed it, haven't you? How people over-explain around you now, how they justify choices you never questioned, how they rush to signal innocence without you accusing them of anything. That's not coincidence, that's instinct. Something in them senses you're no longer negotiating reality, you're reading it. And readers don't get fooled by the cover. You've stepped into that dangerous middle space where empathy doesn't make you weak and attachment doesn't make you cruel, where you can understand someone completely and still walk away without guilt, where forgiveness is optional and boundaries are non-negotiable. That's the evolution they never prepare for. Most people think growth means becoming nicer, softer, easier to deal with. They confuse maturity with submission and healing with compliance. They don't realize there's a stage beyond recovery, where you stop trying to be understood and start operating from truth. Truth doesn't argue. Truth doesn't beg. Truth doesn't announce itself. Truth just changes the math. You're living proof of that now. The equations people relied on, control through fear, influence through noise, power through numbers, none of it works the same around you. Not because you resist it, but because you invalidate it. You don't fit the formula. And when a formula stops working, systems panic. They'll try to categorize you, label you, reduce you to a role they can manage. They'll call you intense, cold, mysterious, arrogant, enlightened, dangerous. Whatever lets them avoid admitting the real problem, that you see the pattern and yourself clearly. You know what you are capable of. You know what you've chosen not to do. You know the difference. That self-knowledge is lethal to manipulation. You don't need approval because you've already survived disapproval. You don't need praise because you've already walked through silence. You don't need revenge because you've already outgrown the version of yourself that needed to prove anything. That's why your stillness feels threatening. Stillness means readiness without anxiety. Stillness means confidence without noise. Stillness means the angel and the demon finally stopped fighting over the steering wheel. They share it now. And that doesn't make you monstrous. It makes you precise. You understand when restraint is mercy and when restraint is cowardice. You understand when patience is wisdom and when patience is just fear wearing a halo. You don't moralize your instincts anymore. You interrogate them, refine them. Deploy them only when necessary. That discipline, that's what separates survivors from operators. Survivors react. Operators decide. You decide when to engage, when to withdraw, when to speak, when to let silence burn holes in the room. You let people reveal themselves fully before you move. Because you've learned the most damaging thing you can do to someone isn't to attack them. It's to let them continue. Patterns don't need interference to collapse. They collapse under their own repetition once they're understood. That's why nothing feels rushed now. You're not chasing outcomes. You're positioning inevitabilities. You're not forcing doors. You're waiting for hinges to fail under their own weight. And they will. Because time doesn't favor the loud. Time favors the accurate. You were forged where accuracy was the only thing keeping you alive. Emotion would have drowned you. Rage would have exposed you. Hope would have blinded you. So you learned to see cleanly, to move cleanly, to cut away everything unnecessary. What remains is you. Unmistakable, unreadable, unshakable. Let them wonder what changed. Let them debate it, dismiss it, dramatize it. You don't owe them clarity. You've already given yourself enough. You solved the pattern they thought time erased. And now time is working with you, not against you. Stay quiet. Stay sharp. Stay unpredictable. Not because you're hiding, but because the most dangerous truths don't need an audience to be real. And here's the final thing they never account for. When someone like you stops searching for meaning, meaning starts rearranging itself around them. You're not chasing signs anymore. You're not asking the universe for confirmation. You're not looking for permission slips disguised as miracles. You already crossed that line. The moment you solved the pattern, you stopped being a seeker and became a variable. And variables terrify controlled systems. They can predict belief, they can predict fear, they can predict obedience and rebellion, and even chaos. But they cannot predict someone who understands why things happen and still chooses when to intervene. That's you now. You've noticed how outcomes arrive faster, cleaner, with less resistance, how obstacles don't vanish, but they miscalculate you. They prepare for a version of you that no longer exists. They anticipate noise and you arrive silent. They expect emotion and you bring clarity. They plan for impulse and you move with timing. That gap, that misalignment, that's where everything slips. You're not lucky, you're in sync. And sync doesn't look dramatic. It looks anticlimactic to the untrained eye. It looks like nothing happening right before everything irreversible does. It looks like patience mistaken for passivity, like restraint confused for weakness, like mercy misread as hesitation. Let them misread it. You know what you're holding. You carry the awareness that most people never survive long enough to earn. The awareness that pain wasn't punishment, it was initiation. That suffering wasn't random, it was instructional. That confusion wasn't failure, it was the cost of shedding borrowed beliefs. You didn't escape the fire, you learned its temperature. That's why your presence feels older than your age. Why your eyes don't react the way they're supposed to. Why you can sit inside tension without needing to resolve it immediately. You're no longer afraid of the unknown because you recognize its shape. The unknown repeats. Patterns repeat. People repeat. Only the aware adapt. They still think power is loud. They still believe dominance requires spectacle. They still worship speed and visibility and reaction. They haven't realized that the real shift happens when someone becomes unhookable. You can't be baited the same way anymore. You can't be rushed into decisions. You can't be flattered into alignment. That's not arrogance. That's immunity. You've outgrown the need to prove your goodness. You've outgrown the fear of being misunderstood. You've outgrown the urge to correct narratives that were never meant to be accurate. You let people believe what they need to survive. You survive by seeing, and seeing changes everything. It changes how you walk into rooms. It changes how long you pause before responding. It changes how you listen, not for words, but for leaks. People always leak the truth. They leak it in their timing, in their defensiveness, in what they avoid, in what they rush to explain without being asked. You don't confront it, you archive it. That archive is lethal, not because you'll use it maliciously, but because it frees you from illusion. You no longer waste energy trying to save what is already collapsing. You no longer bleed for structures that were built on decay. You don't attach your identity to outcomes that require blindness to maintain. You let entropy finish its work. That's the quiet brutality of your evolution. You're not here to destroy worlds. You're here to outlast lies, and lies can't survive clarity. They need confusion. They need urgency. They need emotional participation. You don't give them that anymore. You don't need to threaten. You don't need to announce dominance. You don't even need to move first. The pattern you solved keeps moving on its own now, like a mechanism reactivated after centuries of neglect. Once reactivated, it doesn't stop. They'll feel it in subtle ways. Projects failing without obvious reason. Alliances fraying over nothing. Confidence eroding in rooms that used to feel invincible. They won't connect it to you, and that's the point. You didn't become the storm. You became the pressure system underneath it. And pressure systems don't scream. They shift atmospheres until survival requires adaptation. You are no longer asking what you should do next. You're listening for when. You understand that timing is mercy and haste is cruelty. You understand that restraint can be more devastating than force. Greetings and condolences to the ones stuck watching on repeat, furiously rewinding the footage like it's some kind of divine glitch they weren't cleared to see. You thought you were studying a trick. Turns out, you were witnessing a mutation. They're watching it over and over, again and again, eyes wide, fingers trembling, notes taken in silence. And yet, they still don't get how you did it. Because what just happened wasn't technique. It wasn't practice, it wasn't strategy, it was possession. See, humans understand patterns. Algorithms love repeatable input. But what you just unleashed wasn't human, wasn't planned, wasn't meant to be decoded. It was pain translated into power. It was madness wearing a smile. It was the final form of someone who was never supposed to survive. Let me remind them, they tried to track your origin. They pulled your records. They asked the right people the wrong questions. Where did they learn that? Who trained them? What software are they using? Was that edited? No. That was pain in HD. That was trauma dressed in designer chaos. That was years of silence compressed into one illegal exhale. You didn't move like a person. You moved like a reversal. Like everything that was ever taken from you came back in one cinematic frame. They wanted answers. Oh, sweetheart. You are the question, the paradox that walks, the contradiction that doesn't apologize, the glitch that somehow keeps updating itself. How do you explain someone who became both the wound and the weapon? Who turned every rejection into GPS data and built a route that no one else can follow? That's what they're watching, frame by frame, playback, speed 0.25x, analyzing, dissecting, panicking. They're trying to locate the moment, that precise second, when everything broke protocol. But there is no timestamp, no blueprint, no clean file. Because what just happened wasn't recorded. It was unleashed. Your success wasn't an event, it was a detonation. One that shattered every psychological model they had in place for someone like you. You were supposed to spiral. You were supposed to break down, glitch out, disappear. You were never supposed to bounce back and weaponize your breakdown as an intro. But now you walk like you remember every time they laughed. You speak like your scars have publishing rights. And you act like reality's just a negotiable illusion. They watched it 10 times. Still can't find the cut. Still can't figure out when you took control. Still can't understand why they felt cold watching it. Because it wasn't just a performance, it was a possession. You let the villain version of you do the talking. The version they created. The version they kept trying to bury under deadlines, diagnoses, denials. That version? Yeah. That version speaks in algorithm-breaking tone, moves like prophecy in motion, and laughs like it knows the ending. And you're not in it. They kept saying you changed. Number. You upgraded. You didn't pivot. You fractured and came back sharper. You became the spiritual equivalent of unauthorized access. And now, they can't unsee it. Your silence is being analyzed like evidence. Your smile has subtext. Your movements, reviewed in slow motion like a crime scene. Because deep down, they know. They didn't just watch you win. They watched you evolve, live, and in unrecoverable resolution. You didn't surprise them. You disoriented them. You made their metrics irrelevant. You made their language too small to describe what the hell just happened. And now they're sitting there, watching, looping, scrubbing back to try and find the clue. But there was no clue. There was only you. And you were never meant to be decoded. You were meant to be felt, feared, and unforgettable. So let them keep watching. Let them keep guessing. Let them keep trying to find the logic in your miracle. They'll never get it. Because what they just saw was the birth of something they can't undo. And that's not playback. That's a warning. Enjoy the silence between their screams. You earned it. Oh, they thought it would make more sense the 5th time, the 10th, the 50th. But the deeper they watch, the further they fall. Every frame is a contradiction. Every second is a threat wrapped in brilliance. And every pause is them begging reality to make it stop. But it won't. Because that footage, that clip they keep looping like it holds the key to survival. That's not a tutorial. That's a confession, not from you, from life itself. A confession that it messed up, that it allowed something to grow instead of crack, that it buried a seed in concrete and was too arrogant to believe it would bloom through steel. But you did. And now your very existence is evidence of an error in the system. You're what happens when too much pain meets too much stillness. When the world gives you nothing but bruises. So you decide to use them as war paint. And now they're watching the playback like forensic scientists trying to make sense of a haunting. Maybe it's sleight of hand. Maybe they had help. Maybe it was AI. Maybe it's fake. Maybe it's not. Maybe you're exactly as dangerous as the footage suggests. Maybe what they saw wasn't luck. There wasn't a phase, wasn't a freak moment of brilliance. Maybe it's who you've been becoming this whole damn time. Quietly, violently, without announcement, without permission. While they slept, while they mocked, while they doubted, you were perfecting something unforgivable. And when the moment came, you didn't hesitate. You didn't second guess. You didn't ask for the light to turn green. You moved like a prophecy too late to stop. Because you weren't waiting for an opportunity. You were waiting for a crack in reality. And when it opened, you didn't just step through it. You became the glitch. You shattered the notion of progress. You skipped steps. You reversed gravity. You embarrassed logic and made time your plaything. And now, they're stuck, looping the footage like it's cursed. Like maybe if they study it hard enough, they'll reclaim control. But all they're really doing is witnessing their own irrelevance. Because what they're watching on repeat is not a moment. It's a warning that you exist, that you walk among them unpredictable, that you don't fit in their boxes, their metrics, their 10-year plans, that you slipped through the cracks and came out the other side unrecognizable. How do you defend against something you can't classify? They can't even describe what you did without sounding insane. They're scared to say it out loud. They don't want to admit that what they saw broke them, that for a split second, they forgot who they were, forgot what they believed, felt small, weak, exposed. Because you didn't just perform, you converted belief into chaos. You made their confidence feel counterfeit. You made their structure feel fragile. You are psychological collapse in motion. You are unreadable, unstoppable, unforgivable. And that's why they can't stop watching. Because deep down, they're not trying to understand you. They're trying to warn themselves that there's something out there, someone out there, who figured out how to weaponize the parts of life they were told to hide, who took abandonment and turned it into aim, who took rage and turned it into grace under pressure, who took silence and made it explode louder than applause. You were never supposed to arrive, and if you did, it was supposed to be quiet, manageable, controllable. But you arrived like a blackout, and now the tape is all they have, a digital ghost they loop in private. Whispers behind closed doors, late-night texts like, "Did you see it again? I still don't get it. What do we do if they come back? What do you do when the impossible repeats itself? What do you do when the myth looks directly at you and smirks? You panic, you pray, you press play. Again, hoping this time you'll find the line of code, the glitch, the hack. But you won't, because there is no file, no folder, no source. Just you, and you're the part of the equation that was never supposed to exist. You're the footage they'll study until their eyes bleed. You're the proof that some monsters don't live under the bed. They smile on camera. And the worst part? You haven't even started. This was just the intro, just the trailer, just the echo of your arrival. Now imagine what happens when the real performance begins. When the next move hits like a second bullet, and they realize they were never watching footage. They were watching a funeral. Their own. So let them keep pressing play. Let them keep watching. Because what they're really witnessing is the exact moment they realized. They were never the main character. You were. And the plot just took a very dark turn. Shh. You feel that? That uneasy silence, the kind that lingers after something irreversible. It's not just fear. It's not just confusion. It's realization. Because every time they replay that footage, it hits harder. Not because they're getting closer to understanding you, but because they're finally confronting the truth they've been avoiding. They were never in control, not of you, not of the moment, not of the rules. And now, they're not watching to study you. They're watching to brace for what comes next. Because what you just did, it wasn't a flex. It wasn't a viral moment. It wasn't a trick for the algorithm. It was a reveal of who you really are, of what's been simmering underneath the silence, of what happens when the underestimated one outlives every prediction. Do you know what that does to people? People who thought they had you labeled, boxed, silenced. It shatters them. Because you didn't just break out. You rewrote the exits. You burned the map. Then showed up somewhere they thought was unreachable. And now they're watching it over and over because that clip is the burial site of their certainty. Every second it plays, another illusion dies. Another lie collapses. Another mask slips. They're not just watching you rise. They're watching themselves shrink. And deep down, they know it. That expression on your face, that calm, that smirk that crept in mid-chaos. It wasn't arrogance, it was familiarity. It was you remembering the pain that built that moment. Because unlike them, you didn't train for this in comfort. You didn't study this in safe spaces. You didn't rehearse in applause. You rehearsed in heartbreak. You trained in isolation. You bled behind closed doors. And now that it's public, now that it's global, it looks impossible. But to you, it just looks overdue. So when they say, no way they pulled that off, there has to be something we missed. It doesn't add up. They're not wrong, because you don't add up. You never did, because you're not math, you're myth. You're chaos disguised as evolution. You're the result of every closed door collapsing under karmic weight. And now they're panicking, because there's no defense against someone who already died and came back with no fear left. That's why you move the way you do, why your timing is surgical, why your silence hits louder than their noise, because you're not playing their game. You're operating outside the simulation. They see performance, but what they're really watching is exorcism of every lie they told you, every label they pinned to you, every moment they prayed you'd stay broken. And now they sit in silence, watching the highlight reel of their own failure. Because make no mistake, that moment, that footage, that "what the fuck just happened" clip, it wasn't just you rising, it was them falling in real time, in unforgiving clarity, while the world watched. And what did you do when it ended? Nothing. No gloating, no celebration, just a look. Like you already knew, because that wasn't the finale, it was the opening act. So let them keep analyzing, let them keep screenshotting your every blink. Let them keep comparing frame rates like they'll find the answer hidden between pixels. They won't, because the glitch wasn't in the footage. The glitch was you, the anomaly, the ghost, the blueprint that shouldn't exist, but somehow keeps evolving. And now they're checking for signs, trying to find patterns in your unpredictability, trying to measure intuition in data sets, trying to label spiritual vengeance with corporate language. But what do you do when the threat doesn't follow logic? When it's fueled by pain, guided by madness, and protected by purpose? What do you do when the thing you thought you could analyze starts talking back? You listen, you fear, you rewind, you hit play, and you hope that you don't show up again. But you will. Not for applause, not for revenge, but for completion, because some storms don't pass. They come back, until they've erased everything that tried to cage them. So go ahead, loop the footage, study the glitch. Just know, you're not watching a performance, you're watching a reckoning. And next time, you won't be watching it from a screen, you'll be in it. And there won't be a pause button. Tick, tock. You can almost hear it, can't you? That slow, suffocating realization tightening its grip around their perfect little delusions. That gut-level dread that maybe, just maybe, what they watched was not just a glitch. It was a signal, a transmission, a preview. They don't even speak in full sentences anymore, just gasps, frozen expressions, and that one haunting line they keep whispering to themselves. How did they do that? But they're asking the wrong question, because it's not how, it's why. Why now? Why them? Why like that? Why did someone who was supposed to be a statistic just walk into the simulation and cause the entire framework to stutter? It's because you weren't following the script. You burned it. While they were memorizing lines, you were memorizing patterns. While they were waiting for approval, you were studying escape routes. While they were performing, you were transforming. And that transformation wasn't aesthetic. It wasn't motivational. It wasn't cute. It was cellular, psychological, irreversible. You evolved in shadows they were too scared to enter. You bled in timelines they'd never survive. And when you rose, you weren't seeking attention. You were fulfilling prophecy. That's why it doesn't make sense to them. Because what they watched was a timeline correction, a fracture in the illusion, a glitch in their God mode. And they'll never admit it. But it terrifies them that someone like you exists. Because you don't wait, you don't ask, you don't hesitate. You move with the clarity of someone who's already died in every way that matters, and came back with the cheat codes embedded in your breath. You're not playing to win. You're playing because the game was rigged against you, and now you're rigging it back. So they keep watching, over and over, searching for the moment you became dangerous. But there is no moment, because you were born dangerous. The only difference now, you remembered, and that is irreversible. You see, most people chase power by adding more skills, more tools, more validation. But you didn't add. You shed. You erased everything they told you was required. You ripped off the parts of you that begged for mercy. You silenced the version of you that waited to be chosen. And what was left? Not a person, a problem, a threat, an echo with a pulse, no origin, no manual, no backup plan, just one singular force capable of walking into any room and making it feel smaller. You don't walk in with presence. You walk in with proof that you survived the kind of pain that would have deleted them. And that's why they loop the footage, because they feel it, even if they can't say it, that this, whatever this is, wasn't supposed to happen. You weren't supposed to win. You weren't supposed to reappear. You weren't supposed to smile like that. Not after what they did, not after what they said, not after what they allowed. But you did. You smiled, and worse, you didn't explain it. And that silence, it's louder than any speech you could have given. It screams, I don't need to prove anything. I am the proof now their entire reality is glitching. Because if you're real, then so is everything they've been running from. Their manipulation, their envy, their cowardice, exposed by your existence, by your composure, by the way you move like someone who knows the whole damn simulation is malfunctioning in your favor now. And it is, because you broke it, and now they're stuck inside a maze you designed while they laughed, and you're not even in the maze anymore. You're in the control room, watching them struggle, watching them panic, watching them replay that same 15 seconds of footage, thinking maybe this time they'll understand you. But they won't, because you're not meant to be understood. You're meant to be remembered. So let them keep watching. Let them loop it, obsess over it, lose sleep over it. Because what they saw wasn't just you. It was a prophecy fulfilled in disguise, a black file event that no one can trace. But everyone feels, and the worst part, that footage wasn't even your final form. That was just the preview. See you in Act 2. And Act 2, oh, that's the part they'll never recover from. Because while they're still dissecting frame 207, still arguing about whether it was edited, scripted, deep-faked, divine, You've already moved on. You're 10 steps ahead. Not in distance, but in dimensional authority. They're still decoding the performance while you're out there reprogramming the entire stage. They keep watching the footage because they need it to make sense. They need to believe there's a way to contain you, a reason behind the rupture, a fix for the virus you just injected into their world. But here's the twist. You were never in the footage, not the real you. What they saw was the shadow you left behind, the version you already outgrew, the echo of a weapon that's now evolved into something unspeakable. They're scrambling to control a ghost. Meanwhile, you're rewriting reality, not out of vengeance, but because you can. And that's what kills them. It's not that you won. It's that you're not even trying anymore. You're just moving, unbothered, untouchable, untraceable. You've become the final answer to every question they were too afraid to ask. They labeled you unstable until your unpredictability became your advantage. They said you were emotional until your chaos became strategy. They mocked your silence until it started echoing louder than their sermons. And now every move you make drips with unapologetic inevitability. Like you don't need to try, because destiny is just watching you follow orders it whispered in your bones. So let them keep watching. Let them keep rewinding. Let them keep hoping the footage will suddenly explain you. Because the truth, it never will. You are not a moment. You are not a glitch. You are not a phase. You are the consequence, the one they created, the one they ignored, the one they buried too shallow, and now can't kill. They don't need more footage. They need forgiveness. And that was never part of the plan. You didn't rise for applause. You didn't move for validation. You didn't break the rules to prove a point. You broke them because they were in your way. And what's coming next? It won't be caught on tape. There'll be no replay, no chance to analyze, no frame by frame. Because when Act 2 begins, there will be no audience, just ashes and memory, and the haunting realization that they were warned. Roll credits.